Hi, welcome to Tea Time. My name is Adrienne Savage and I'm the host, and today we have Laura, another Tea Party member, and we'll be discussing mortgage fraud. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Adrienne. Thanks for having me back.
So you were here before, and you gave us a little bit of a taste of what's going on in the mortgage industry with all the home foreclosures. So kind of give us some background and then get us up to date.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Yes, we talked about the big picture the last time, which is that there are no mortgages to back the mortgage-backed securities, which are those instruments that all the big pension funds and institutional investors like insurance companies invested in. So our pension money, our insurance money, annuities are all at risk. It was a $13 trillion heist, and nobody has been indicted. And that has changed. That's the same.
And we talked a lot about how it impacts the homeowner, not just the people who are in distress and losing their home, but the people actually are current on the mortgage.
Yes.
So I'm a homeowner. Why should I care?
Well, that's a great question, because really this has been marginalized. The people who stole the $13 trillion are making it sound like it's just a group of people who were, irresponsible or unsophisticated borrowers, and it's too bad they're in foreclosure, but you know what? It was their fault. Move along, people. And in fact, every single homeowner, everyone who had a mortgage that originated, meaning it began from 1995 until 2008, there's a very distinct possibility the chain of title is broken on their property, they have clouded title, they have an unmarketable property, and they are at risk, future risk, for having their largest asset depreciate at an astounding rate.
Okay, so let's just go back one step. When you say chain of title and broken mortgage,
right,
what does that mean?
That means very simply, it's like, we call it like the producers. We go back again to the mortgage-backed securities. When they took these loans and they said, oh yeah, we're going to securitize them, we're going to sell them into investors and bundle them up and send them out. It was supposed to go from A to B to C to D, and there was supposed to be strict paperwork, and that would keep the chain of title intact. A to B to C to D. That's the chain of title. Okay, lender A to B to C to D, evidence, etc. That didn't happen.
Now, again, so I'm a homeowner.
Right.
I'm thinking that when I get my loan, that loan is going to be with that bank or that institution that I got the loan from, right?
And that's your first mistake.
Oh, okay.
Okay. As part of this process, the guys who went out and sold the mortgage-backed securities to the investors claimed they had homes and loans, but they didn't. It was like the producers, Adrienne.
Right.
You know, when the actors went out and they sold, shares of a play about dancing and singing Nazis without the intention of ever producing it. The same thing with the mortgage-backed securities. They never had the loans. They just took the money. Okay, and so what happened was they ripped off the investors, but then that left the homeowner with clouded title, and that's the story that's not being told.
Okay. So because most homeowners think when they go in and they borrow money for a home, that mortgage is staying with that bank, and that is no longer happening.
Exactly. So not only we use this example, Adrienne. So say you've decided that Bank B is your bank, and you want your loan to be with Bank B. You believe that they're a great company. You've done your research. You like the rates. You think the customer service is going to be super. So you do that. When you sit down at the table as a borrower, you present your driver's license, right? I am Adrienne. This is me. This is my picture, right? You've seen all of my financials. You know who I am. Well, the party at the other side of the table is not the lender. They're a pretender lender.
So they're kind of just a front bank for the actual investors who ends up owning your mortgage.
That's correct.
Okay.
Perfect. Yes, that's very good. And so that straw buyers get arrested by the FBI, right? You can't show up. I couldn't say I was you. You couldn't say you were me, right? But straw lenders,
they're getting away with it.
They are.
And I'm just curious, at what point did this, I guess, become legal or to do this?
Well, I think the mistake, what they did was they decided when the Community Reinvestment Act was passed under Clinton, that everybody should get a mortgage, let's lower the standards and the underwriting, for loans. And so the banking community was very conservative at that time, and they were like, there's no way we're touching those loans. So the regulations only applied to consumer banks. They didn't apply to investment banks. That's the sticker. So Morgan Stanley and Lehman and Bear Stearns all went into the mortgage business. Okay, because they were unregulated. Okay, and so banks weren't lending their own money. It was Morgan Stanley and Lehman and all those guys got the money from the investors, and they dropped it into something called a warehouse lending account. And that's where the money came from the investors, right, from the pension funds. And so when you had an originator, say Accredited, which was an originator years ago, and they went bankrupt. So Accredited would pretend to be my lender, but they borrowed the money from Morgan Stanley or Lehman, who got it from an investor. Okay.
So they were already, hence the mortgage back.
Exactly. So it was broken. So what they did was, so they did that transaction, and we're saying, if your lender's not your lender, but a pretender lender, and it's a contract, how could this possibly be a valid instrument at origination? So that's the first part. The second part is, we have this transaction, but they're not telling us in any of the paperwork or in any of the meetings that there's an entirely different transaction that's occurring behind the scenes about our mortgage, and they're not giving us information or letting us know the terms. And so that's important, because the people who lent the money have a relationship with the people who gave us the money. Okay? And so they cut a deal. And so there's insurance payments, there's all kinds of things happening in that transaction that we're unaware of.
Okay, so so this is what is, so what exactly led to, I guess, the break in title?
Very interesting. When you securitize them, they were supposed to bring it, say I was your lender, I had your mortgage. They were supposed to send it to their originating trust, and you had a series of parties. You have a depositor, you have a sponsor, you have the trustee, and then it gets locked down into the trust, all in 90 days. And each one of those individual groups had a responsibility to check and make sure that your mortgage met underwriting standards, that you were who you said you were, that the property was worth what they said it was worth. Okay, they promised the investors who loaned you the money that that's what they were going to do. Well, Adrienne, we know they didn't do it. Okay, at all. All they did, every single chain, part of that chain, of that transaction, they just took the money. All they did. And when they did that, they never said, there's supposed to be an assignment of mortgage, okay, from, again, the originator, say, Accredited, to Bank B, to C, to D. All of those are supposed to have an assignment of mortgage from A to B to C to D. Doesn't exist. And
I guess just for the audience, that's what would typically happen at the county clerk's office, where it's in, you go the big books, and it's in a book, or now it's in a computer system where you can go and look and see who actually owns your debt.
Public, very public, very quote-unquote transparent, that overused word, right? But they changed that. In 1995, before all this took off, they knew that there were going to be so many mortgages flying through the system. And the land recording system, although it worked beautifully, was slower. It was paper-based, and you had to wait for the clerk to review the materials, the documents, and issue their stamp. Well, they were just too big to fail. They just didn't want that to happen. So 6 people got in a room, and I have the articles. In 1995, they brag about it. It was a push by the 3, we call them the evil triplets, Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie. Okay, and they were pushing these conservative banks to abandon the paper land title system and to adopt this MERS electronic recording system. And when they did that, they were pushed by Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie, and then finally they decided, okay, we'll do it. But that's what broke the chain of title as well, because nothing was recorded at the county clerks.
And that happened because they had this window of opportunity to process all these this paperwork to make all this money.
That's right.
In a span of time, so they wanted the quickest, fastest way to process the paperwork.
Exactly. And initially it sounds like, oh, that's a great idea.
Right.
But they treated a house, and this is the core, they use that electronic recording system, MERS. It's based off of what a security trading system is like. Well, a house is very different than a share of a...
It's a real property versus electronic funds or...
But that's the way they treated it.
Or a stock.
Exactly. And Angelo Mazzillo was the brainchild of this.
Wow.
His IT guy, quote unquote, created MERS. So, I mean, you look at this cast of characters, and is anybody surprised at the way it's turning out? So people think that it's just people who haven't paid their mortgages who have an issue. But actually, the fraud bubbles up when people stop paying, or if something happens and it's not their mistake, but something is triggered that makes it look like they're not paying.
Exactly.
That's when all of these parties who have no real interest in the property, have no evidence, and actually are a stranger in the transaction, pop up and say they're going to take your home.
Wow.
And it can happen to anybody for any reason at any time.
So what have you seen, or I guess I should say this, so now we're fast forward and we're here now.
Right.
And we've seen the foreclosure explosion, which kind of helped uncover a lot of this because it was kind of going unnoticed until they've had these massive foreclosures and people really start digging into the paperwork.
That's right. Well, exactly. Well, actually, people aren't digging as much as we would like.
Okay.
In New Jersey, 96% of the people who are served with a lis pendens, which is a foreclosure lawsuit, don't answer. And we have great laws in New Jersey. And I think the judges are very, very frustrated that we have all of these really strong safeguards for homeowners, and homeowners aren't taking advantage of them. So first and foremost, nobody, if any circumstances, should ask for a modification. Because the minute they ask for a modification on their mortgage, they're put in the foreclosure bucket, and they're fast-tracked to foreclosure.
Oh. Wow, nobody tells them that.
Right, and actually they tell them to stop paying or to pay a lower rate, and it's a quote-unquote trial modification, and that gets rescinded, and then they tell the homeowner that, oh, you owe more every month now, but you also owe the difference of what you didn't pay us.
So it's almost like a double backfire because on one end, the individuals are digging themselves into a deeper hole.
That's correct.
And then you have the other individuals who are trying to pursue this path, and they're not getting any of their paperwork back.
That's right. Well, that's purposeful.
Right.
And that's done. We know through whistleblowers like Wells Fargo, whistleblowers said that they had a special fax number when they told a consumer to send their paperwork in, and they called it the black hole.
Wow.
And it went into this black hole where other parties that weren't employees of Wells Fargo would scan the documents. And they were really looking to see if there was title issues.
Right. And most of them were.
Right.
Wow. So,
lots here.
Right. This is a great place to break. And everyone out there, please remember to check out Laura's piece on mortgage fraud at New Jersey Tea Party Coalition. That's njteapartycoalition.org. We'll be right back.
With all the excitement happening with the Tea Party, it may be a little hard to separate fact from fiction. Find out the truth for yourself. Visit the New Jersey Tea Party Coalition's website at www.njteapartycoalition.org. You may find a common voice to your concerns on how our government is functioning, and discover a means to help restore our nation based on the proven principles of our Constitution.
Hi, welcome back. We were just talking about mortgage fraud with our guest Laura from the Tea Party, the New Jersey Tea Party Coalition group. And so Laura, we were just talking about how we got into this big mess. And so now what do we do about it?
Well, exactly. We have solutions because we feel, there's so many things going wrong in the world. It's like, what's next? The plague, locusts, what more are they going to do to us? is, right? So yes, but we have solutions. The first and foremost, and everybody can do this, go to your county clerk's office, to the county registry, look up your mortgage, your assignment of mortgage if there is one, if there's discharges of mortgage in your chain of title, and Xerox them.
And
Xerox them,
okay.
bring them home. Open up your computer.
Okay.
Okay, and take a look and read your documents to see if there's any mention that your note or your mortgage was going to be sold.
Right.
Okay, because if they said they were going to sell it, they did.
You probably did.
They did. The other piece is if there's MERS, M-E-R-S, listed anywhere in any of your documents, go to www.mers.org.
Right.
Okay, and there's a lookup for homeowners, and you just type in your name and your address of your property,
Okay.
and it will call up a screen. It's very simple to use, and it'll tell you whether or not you're in the MERS system.
Okay, so I'm a homeowner. I'm going to go dust off all my paperwork
Yes.
in somewhere that I have it.
Yes.
Or call my lender. And would your lender have a copy of them if you
They
don't?
would, but I say the registry, Adrienne, is because there's stamps on the registry.
I see.
Okay, that gives us clues,
Okay.
because now it's really a crime scene.
Right, because
You know, you want to see what the evidence is.
but when we talk about a mortgage, those mortgages are also recorded at the county clerk's office. So
Yes.
just say, I don't know where my paperwork is.
That's correct.
I can go down, look up
That's right.
my name as a property owner and find the original document.
And they're very helpful. I mean, Bergen
Okay.
County, they're terrific. You know, if you just ask one of the, the employees, they'll help you find your mortgage. And then you just Xerox it. It's 5 cents a sheet. Very easy, right? And then just take that home, put it in a binder, save it, because
Okay.
we're gathering evidence.
Okay.
Okay, go into MERS. You're going to see a screen if it says, yes, Adrienne, you're on the MERS system, and it'll list your name and your property. It may say your servicer is Bank ABC.
Okay.
Okay, print out that. Okay, because the information changes on the MERS system. Sometimes things pop up, sometimes they don't. So if you capture it, you want to print it.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, keep it as hard evidence. The second piece is if you enter in your Social Security number, it will tell you who your investor is.
Oh, okay.
Okay, again, save it, print it, pop it in a binder.
Okay.
Very simple, that's evidence. Now, the next thing you're going to do, and this is really, and we can do a whole show on this. This is very interesting. There's something called a Qualified Written Request Letter. QWR for short.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody can do this who's a homeowner, and actually, it was the safeguards or homeowner rights were sort of strengthened in the Dodd-Frank bill.
Right.
Okay. So very stringent. And so what you do is it's a letter, and we have a template on our website.
Okay, that's on our website,
Yes.
which is the new NJ
TeaPartyCoalition.org, exactly. And what that will do is you print that out and just type it up to your servicer, whoever you're paying every month. Okay, Bank ABC, if that's who you're paying, and you send them a letter, certified mail, return receipt requested,
Okay.
and in that it's a paragraph, and you're basically saying, who's the owner of my note?
Okay.
I want to know.
Right.
According to the law, and there's a law that's cited.
So once I just want to go back a couple of steps because from the first segment we talked about MERS,
Yes.
right? And MERS came into existence because they started this mortgage-backed securities, which is why we need to look into MERS to see who actually the investment company or bank.
Who's our
which-
true creditor?
Right,
Right.
who's
Who
the
really gave us the
Right.
money? Because the one across the table is a fake.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Exactly.
So now we're essentially collecting all this information
Yes.
to prepare to.
Okay. This is the hard part. This is where we sort of take a dive, right?
Okay.
So we wait for the information to come back from the servicer. Okay. And they should say your note is owned by a trust, if that's the case, and they cite the trust's name. Okay. And so we're helping. At that point, it's hard.
Right. And
For people to do something
And
next. So-
what is a trust? Because people kind of want to know what kind of entity they're dealing with.
Yeah, actually, this is interesting, and this is where we can ask these kinds of questions, and we can keep diving down these holes. But a lot of the trusts that are cited no longer exist.
Okay, but the trusts were originally a group of investors, or
They were shares of mortgages.
okay, so it's I guess you could it's similar to like I don't know. The thought went out of my head, so go ahead.
Like a mutual fund. Think of it.
There you go.
Is that what you were
exactly-
thinking?
Yes, exactly.
Right, like a mutual fund kind of thing
Right.
without, like, there. But mutual funds, there's actually stocks.
Right.
There's no mortgages. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we keep coming back to that.
Yes.
But so yes, that's what's supposed to happen,
Okay.
right? But the reason, now this is why you're going to say, oh my God, this is crazy. Why aren't I reading about this? Why isn't it on the news? Why aren't people talking about it? Actually, it is. But the people who are acting on this information that we're talking about are the large institutional investors are marching into court and they're getting their money back.
Wow.
And every single day there are more and more suits. And they're going for what we call the low-lying fruit, which is saying, you know, Goldman Sachs, Lehman, Bears all lied about the quality of the loans.
Right, yes.
Right? So they call it representations and warranties. That's the formal term, that they violated reps and warranties. So for instance, big investors sued Bank of America,
Right.
who bought Countrywide, and they settled for $850 billion or $1 million. I mean, it's a phenomenal amount of money. Now, why would they do that?
Right.
Why would they settle for $850,000 if they had evidence? And it's simple. They have a file.
Right. If they
Okay.
actually
No,
had
we
it.
gave you the right loans. No,
Yeah.
here. But they didn't. So that's what we know. Just so to back it up, that's what we know. What we're doing is true.
So they're having a difficult time actually mapping up the debts with the actual properties.
That's right. And a lot of these loans, Adrienne, are supposed to be in trusts,
Right.
and they're not in the trusts. They're lying.
Wow.
So that's the hard part, and that's where we're doing these mortgage work fraud workshops. We're calling them, "Are you paying your true creditor?"
That's
And they're for
perfect.
everybody. So we're saying, bring your original paperwork and everything that I just described. Bring that to our workshop, and we'll have the dates posted on New Jersey Coalition, New Jersey Tea Party Coalition.org.
So make sure everybody
Just
check
check.
back periodically to make sure
Exactly.
that you don't miss out on these seminars. But I want to bring you back to the point where the homeowner is now waiting for that letter to come back,
Yes.
and they've got the letter back.
Right. Like, what does it mean?
Right.
So sometimes they'll say, they were getting all different responses. We're doing a lot of these for homeowners at different phases of their, again, people paying on time.
Right.
People have almost paid off their mortgage. Very interesting. Sometimes they're saying, we don't have to give you that information,
Right.
which isn't true. That's a violation of the federal law. Sometimes they're saying, we're the holder of your note.
okay.
Holder is not the same as owner.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
They're hiding information. So in that case, bring that letter to the mortgage fraud workshop with you,
Okay.
and we'll help you with the next steps, because that's too much for us to discuss tonight.
Right. Yeah,
It's a
that's-
lot,
yeah,
right? But there's things that we can do in the law. The other thing is they're sending a response back. The owner of your note is a trust, and they'll name the trust. So what we're doing is we're going on the SEC website and pulling up the trust.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And I've learned how to read the documents.
Okay.
And the documents will cite for that trust a trustee, which is usually a bank or an investment bank, and it has an 800 number. So we call the 800 number. And they direct us to write an email. So the homeowner writes an email and says, you know what, the qualified written request letter from Bank ABC came back and said that you are the owner of my note. And I would like more information on that. I'd like to see the evidence that you're the owner of my note. I'd like to see my original note with the stamp on it.
Oh,
Okay, your stamp, because that's what the law says. I'd like to see the assignments of mortgage that transferred my loan into this trust.
Oh, okay.
Okay? We're getting letters back, the homeowners are getting letters back saying, we are not the owner of your note. Talk to your servicer.
Wow. So these notes are just in the abyss where they're sitting in a
It's because there are no
cabinet?
mortgages to back the mortgage-backed securities. We get back to the original, they just took the money. And what we're hearing from our contacts in Wall Street and the capital markets is that those trustees do not want to touch homeowners with a 10-foot pole.
Wow.
They don't want anything to do with this because they didn't get a big fee for being a trustee, and they didn't do their job.
Wow.
And so they are liable for all kinds of lawsuits and very vulnerable. So they're just pushing it back to the servicer, which is Bank ABC that you wrote
Right.
to in the beginning, right? So you've come full circle, but now you have a paper trail. So now we're helping homeowners go to court, we're getting them attorneys, and they go to court and they do something called a quiet title action, and they say, Judge, Here's the evidence. I don't know who my owner of my note is. Look, judge. And you go through all of that and say, I have a wild deed.
Wow.
I want my title back.
And how receptive are the attorneys with the process? Once you have all your information, you pretty much tell them, hey, I just need a quiet deed.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's interesting. A number of attorneys don't know anything about quiet title.
Ooh, quiet title.
Yeah, quiet. Yeah, it's okay. Wild deed, it's okay. But they don't know. We have to tell them.
Okay.
Okay. But where there's a group of us within, some people are in Tea Party, others are just, regular people. But we have bankers, attorneys, we have title people, we have people specialized in mortgage-backed securities. And so we're digging into all these documents and the evidence that homeowners are gathering, and then we're helping them navigate their way through the system so they can get clarity on if they're not paying the true creditor and the quote-unquote owner of their note isn't responding, what do you do next? And we're getting attorneys to do that for them.
And so for clarity, all homeowners need to do this, number one, because if nothing else, they want to secure their title to their home.
That's right.
Whether they're still paying on it, whether they've finished paying on it, so that when they get ready to transfer their title, whether it's to their children or to another buyer,
That's right.
that they know it's a secure, clear title, and that they'll be able to get their title insurance. Because a lot of people say, well, what do I care if I can? But you want to be sure you can get, or that they don't come back at some point to say that you
committed fraud and you didn't tell them there was MERS in the chain of title.
Right.
So we call title companies here in New Jersey, because in other states, to your point, Adrienne, in Michigan, there was a court ruling. Again, it was based on foreclosure, but it applied to everybody. And it said the courts ruled in Michigan you cannot foreclose in the name of MERS.
Right.
You have to be a real lender.
Wow.
So what happened? They're like, oh, it's okay. We'll just refile and we'll put the lender name down. Well, the title company said, you have MERS in your chain of title, you can't foreclose, period, and get a title policy if you try to sell that home later.
Now, we only have just like a minute or so left. So at the end of the day, what is it that they ultimately need to do, or
gather as much evidence? It's a crime.
Right.
Okay, it is. And I know that's going to sound extreme, but it is. Gather everything about your mortgage, start doing your own investigative work, look at our website, NewJerseyTeaPartyCoalition.org. Mortgage fraud is a special page. This will be updated. Look for our mortgage fraud workshops, and we'll help you.
All right, great. Okay. All right, so thank you, everyone. Remember, again, to check out our website at njteapartycoalition.org.